Hi everyone, I have with me James today once again to give running commentary on one of our games. This is our Apocalypse Max versus HB Food Codes. But first, hi James.
Hello, and this game was played a few days ago, so
Yep,
I'm not going to be entirely up on exactly what was in my hand or anything like that. So I'll
yep.
try and go over my decision making
Not
process
really. This is
as I
we'll
can.
be analyzing my plays more than yours.
I'd
Because
hope
we
so,
both
given
know
the
this
few.
Apocalypse Max deck, we both run it. So I would like to hear your feedback on what I should play or what I should have done better. So I think I mulligan into this. I would never keep this hand. Would I? I don't know. Would you mulligan this hand?
Um, yeah, it's not a particularly strong starting hand. It hasn't got any of that early aggression that you really want, and you
Yeah.
don't want a fem in your starting hand.
Oh no, yeah, you don't.
Um,
Yep. So you basically HB here plays two assets presumably. So I guess you don't go for it. And will you play a day drop here? I guess you would. There's nothing better to do.
I think most probably, yeah. I mean, with HQ left open, because actually, a lot of the time with this deck, you don't like playing day job particularly. You don't want to waste the turn,
Yeah, you don't.
so it's nice to actually have a turn where you think it's not going to be so bad if you play it. My latest version, I think I may have gone down to two day jobs actually because I'm
Ah,
often finding that I don't want to play them.
but do you find that you need the money for Apocalypse Max?
Well, I haven't been too bad on the money.
Hmm.
But the more testing is still needed. That's the last thing I added in.
Ah, definitely. Alright, so I overdraw right here and get a lot of money, I guess. I play a show gamble? Oh no, the Eater. That makes sense as well.
There's
Either makes
plenty of
sense.
there's plenty of things in this hand that make sense to play
Yeah.
right now.
Would you have pitched the amped up
Probably not. No, the Fem, yes. I'd have kept the amped up.
and toss what? All five cards look good here.
Yeah, it's a bit tough that one. But as soon as you see your wanton, you've got an eater in hand. Amped up then becomes incredibly strong.
Ah, true that. Yeah,
Um,
okay. I should keep the amped up. I mean,
that
especially
that
against
was
you.
a tough call though.
That's true. Yeah,
See now you've got your
there's the
wanton
one
big
thing.
up. If you'd kept that amped up, you could the
Uh,
next turn be hitting hard.
yeah. Then I could have played the Eater and yeah, you're right. Definitely.
Because
Although,
because amped up is normally one that you only have a single copy of, and it's an event. I mean, you've got the same old things, but yeah, you don't really want to be throwing amped up.
yeah, that's true. I think you want to do it the other way. Amped up and then same old one turn. That makes more sense.
Yes,
Because amped up
absolutely,
snipes.
yeah. The
Yeah.
amount of times you lose wanton destruction out of your hand due to that brain damage it's
uh,
fairly typical. I think that's more assets going in there.
so what will you do here?
I'm not sure. If I was on your side, it's kind of tough. I mean, the money trainers are rolling. There's not much you can do to stop it at this stage. I mean, this deck is not superb for going after assets in remote
Actually,
servers.
what I could do was to play DDoS and start trashing all your damn things.
Yes, I mean, if DDoS is DDoS on the board now? No, it's
Nope,
not.
but I could.
DDoS should go on the board because you want to get the keyhole on the board soon after as well and cause problems.
Hmm. I don't like telegraphing the DDoS. I rather play it on the turn I want to siphon or something.
Um,
Yeah, I was saving it for
well, I
the
mean, the
siphon.
thing is, DDoS goes down now, and what does the corp do? He doesn't know where you're going to hit, and all the servers only have one piece of ice. I
Ah,
mean, he will put a second piece of ice somewhere probably, but this deck is really irritating because it could be a siphon and it could be
a keyhole.
keyhole, and you don't know which one it is. So unless if I had two pieces of ice in my hand and you played a DDoS, it would definitely be a bit unfortunate.
But this turn, what I did was to play Queen's Gambit on your new asset right there. Would you have played DDoS and trash everything instead?
That is a really interesting question. The answer to which is quite possibly. I think that the problem is that with the econ package that HB runs, you don't want to let it run away with itself. 17 credits is decent, but it's not the end of the world. If that's another asset and it starts ticking as well, quite soon they're going to be on 25, 30 credits, and that's going to make life in general a lot more difficult for you as the runner.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is
Um,
my biggest mistake here, letting you get 27
yeah,
credits.
because you could have go DDoS and then trash
Yep.
just everything that's around there.
And yes,
Um,
you do get another
And there
Adonis.
it is. So now there's an Adonis and an Eve, and that
Ooh.
money is by next turn that money is going to be up in the 30s, and that's a huge problem for you.
Now, if I can pull off an Apocalypse next turn, that would change. That would change
Absolutely,
everything.
Apocalypse. Unfortunately, that looks
A
like
Christian, probably.
Crisium or Caprice. Obviously, I know this deck because I play it, and when you're playing against anything that you suspect to be Apocalypse, you desperately want. I mean, the deck is irritating because it does exactly this. It has decent threats on both R&D and HQ,
Yep.
but you want to prefer HQ because you're almost always going to be having siphons, and there's the wanton destruction amped up combo, and it stops Apocalypse as well. So HQ is generally slightly better than R&D, but by putting it on R&D, I've ended up getting Keyhole. So it's a good example of where the deck can cause you issues regardless of what you do.
Yeah. And I was somewhat rich, so I could afford to um beat break Eli with Ether. And what would
I
you
mean,
trash here?
right here, always Caprice.
Always
Just
Caprice.
always Caprice. She is just evil. Um, all of those things are things you don't want to see, but
Even knowing that your deck runs archived memories?
that's the really well. You can't. All these decks do an archive. I don't think you can play as if the second you put it out, it's going to get archived.
Fair
Um,
enough.
it's a really interesting question that actually. I really like some high level players to comment on exactly that. But I would just get rid of the Caprice personally.
Yeah,
Um,
that's true. Caprice just wrecks Apocalypse Siphon.
and you're spending an archived on Caprice rather than something else. I mean, I know Caprice is the best thing you could spend it on anyway, but it's a bit tough.
Yeah, and I took a long
It,
time to
it
think about this.
yeah, and that's not really surprising.
I think I went with the Ichi. Not
Yeah,
sure
I
if that
mean,
was.
you've got DDoS now. It's not bad going with Ichi. So is that another keyhole run which you accidentally did as a normal run?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm doing it right here. I'm basically spending all my hard-earned day job credits
Well,
on keyholes.
ooh, wow.
Yeah.
Goodness. Yeah, that's brutal. Um,
Jackson or ABT?
you just trashed a Caprice, didn't you, on the last one?
I trashed the Ichi.
Oh, in which case, Jackson. Sorry, yeah. I don't know. I'd go for the agenda, actually. I'd go for the agenda because, quite frankly, the longer the game goes on, the worse it's going to be for you.
That's true.
Unless you can hit Apocalypse, of course. But food coats generally get stronger and stronger the longer the game goes on because it makes everything expensive. It has caprices and ashes on all the right places, and you know econ package can survive it. So one of the things you can do to mitigate that is make it so that you only need to score one agenda come late game. Because if you need to score two or three, the chances of you managing to pull them become incredibly low.
Yep.
So I think when I'm playing the food coat deck, one of the nastiest things that can happen to me. That's my phone. One of the nastiest things that can happen to me is to lose 2 or God forbid 4 points right at the start of the game. Then it makes the whole thing much more difficult.
Yep.
Sorry about the phone.
No problem. And this is where, yeah,
See, the problem is because you spent all that money doing things that weren't. Can you pause it for a second? This is an interesting.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so what's happened now is that you had the potential opportunity to trash all the econ, you didn't take it. So you've keyholed a few things, but ultimately it hasn't really got you anywhere in terms of getting closer to winning the game.
Nope, still on 0 points.
You're still on 0 points because you didn't hit any agendas. Why is the phone not stopping me? You're still on 0 points because you didn't hit any agendas. My money is getting stronger and stronger. I'm now on 30 credits. You can't trash my resources anymore, my assets anymore, because you don't have the money to do it. And now I'm busting out what you can assume to be an agenda.
Yeah, I shouldn't have spent all my early tempo on.
Yeah, so if you were going to do those keyholes and spend your money, you needed to get points out of it.
Fair enough.
Needed to advance. I think looking at the game as it stands now, suddenly it's looking a bit pear shaped.
Oh yeah, it looks very bad for me. Yes.
Because now there's 2 points. Am I going to trigger it? I don't know. Yes, but they are incompetent. Les incompetents. That was very sad because I haven't seen that much ice. My worry is, that DDoS is down. I've only got 4 pieces of ice out, so I really hoped that ABT would actually hit something.
And I run to force your upgrade out, which turns out to be a caprice.
So DDoS is great for this, actually.
Yes, it's amazing, and if I actually had seen an apocalypse right now by this time, I could actually have pulled it off. This would be a perfect time to apocalypse.
This is another reason why you keep amped up, because amped up allows you to waste clicks and then amped up and then hopefully apocalypse.
I can still say more amped up. That's fine.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I could.
not the best, but actually, in fact, in this case, it is the best. It gets rid of your same old thing off the board.
Yes,
Now,
it is.
now I veer from my usual bidding 2 here, which is a big mistake. As soon as I don't do that, I lose. But because you triggered the DDoS, it allowed you 4 straight runs on Caprice, so you were probably going to get it at some point. So this is good for you. I think that turn is actually as far as you could go in a single turn towards leveling the playing field a little.
Yeah, but if I actually had an apocalypse in my hand right now, I could double same old amped up and go for the apocalypse straight away.
That is true.
Done a lot more to hurt you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, any kind of apocalypse right now is great. Choosing when to apocalypse is really, really tough against these decks because you kind of want them to invest a fair bit into their board structure before you wipe it out. But if they go too far, if they get Caprice on HQ, then it can bite you in the foot, and you're stuck. So it's very, very. If you do see the apocalypse, it's very tough working out when is the actual best time to play it.
That's true. That's very skill testing. Alright. I guess there's not much here.
The interesting thing about the way this deck plays is actually that what you really want to do when you keyhole, maybe not against food codes so much, but against a lot of decks, is actually keyhole out as much ice as possible.
That's what I'm trying to do right here.
Yeah, which you are trying to do. Which I actually think in this early game was a mistake, but now is, well... but yeah, keyholing ice is generally a really good thing because once you hit the apocalypse, if they had a bunch of ice out on the board, when the apocalypse goes down, suddenly they become just really short on ice in their deck overall, and it can cause a lot of problems because I've been on the other end of that, especially if you can land an apocalypse kind of 2/3 the way through the game. So they've only got 15, 20 cards left in R&D. They have no ice on the board. Yeah. Suddenly, defending anywhere and getting a scoring server going becomes an absolute trial.
Especially when they know that all their ice is in the heap and they can't draw for more ice.
So choosing what to keyhole is actually really, really difficult.
Yeah, like this one here. What would you choose? Ice, Archive.
Ichi. Always Ichis. Ichis are incredibly irritating for this deck because it's a 5 res cost piece of ice that costs you 5 to break with Ether, which is incredibly good for the corp.
I chose the Eli here because of Immolation Script.
That's okay. That's fairly reasonable. Yeah, Immolation Script is very. That's the other reason you want to keyhole ice because then you can do an Immolation Script and you've got lots of targets of anything that's rezzed.
Yeah. But yeah, Ichi is annoying. I have to agree with you there.
Ichi is just very over expensive to break with Ether, so you kind of dislike Ichi a lot. And unlike and Ichi forces you to deal with it as well if you face check it.
Yep.
So where are we? I mean, I've only got 2 points, but it's not good for you that we're this late into the game and you haven't got any points at all.
Nope, not at all.
It's good. You're in some ways lucky that I haven't seen any more econ assets because that would really put a bit of a nail in the coffin.
Or more ice for that matter.
Yeah, there's not much ice and there's 2 breaker bays. Like the apocalypse is still potentially on with this.
Yeah, I don't exactly know what I'm finding at this point. There's very little I can do.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much of your deck left at this stage. I mean, when you play this deck, you generally you draw more than I do. I think when we play, I take money more than you do, and you draw more than I do.
Ooh, I threw away the retrieval run. Oh, that's gonna bite me.
Never want to throw away a retrieval run. It's a great card.
Right, no, because I thought I have Ether and Keyhole out, so I don't need a retrieval run. But do you remember why that was a bad choice?
I can't remember why in this particular instance now.
I'll give you a hint. It has to do with account siphon. Can you think of any reason why I might want to fetch something from my heap?
Probably Fem.
Yes, Fem. That would be nice.
Alright, so where are you? You've not got many cards left.
So
yeah. So the problem now is becoming that you haven't scored any points, and it's getting towards mid-game, and HB is getting set up, and you still haven't hit an Apocalypse. An Apocalypse would reset this whole situation.
Yeah,
That's
but the problem
the great thing about it.
Yeah, you
I
blew
mean,
up.
that's the strength of the Apocalypse deck. One Apocalypse here, and suddenly the whole game flips.
Alright, so this is where I really regret throwing away my retrieval run. You can rest the innermost ice.
Oh, is this where you hit the Architect?
Architect can be broken by Ether. It's worse.
What do you hit?
Oh wait, that's not a Turing. Okay, never mind. I thought that was a Turing for some reason. In any case, yeah, I really should be preparing against HQ Turing against HB.
And yes, conversely, if you're playing the HB, get that cheering on HQ against this kind of deck.
It's really powerful.
In fact, against a lot of Anarchs, where to put your Turings is hugely important, and actually quite hard to work out as well. Against these Siphon DLR, cheering on HQ is fantastic. Yeah, so I'm kind of not having the best time in the world either in terms of getting points. I mean, I'm still only 2 points up. I think I've basically stopped Apocalypse now with 2 upgrades.
Yeah, I think that was your main concern, and now that you have stopped the upgrades, well, somewhat. The immolation script does get you.
Immolation is very irritating. I totally didn't see that coming.
And I get to check archives as well, but there's nothing. But yeah, that basically exposes R&D, so Keyhole threat is live again. Which, yeah, you can always place threats on some server, which is very annoying.
Yep, it's good. It's a really good thing about this deck. All bets are off. All bets are off.
Yeah, unfortunately,
I'm honestly considering in trying a slightly different version where I switch out an account siphon for a sneak door beta actually.
oh wow, that is pretty
Because
crazy.
suddenly Caprice defending things is, unless it's R&D, is not the biggest issue in the world, and when people are pressured, they generally leave Archives as the least defended server as well. So if you want to Apocalypse, you can sneak door into HQ via Archives, hit Archives, and then you just have to run R&D. It's something that I'm going to test. It probably won't work.
Yeah, you do need the siphon money.
You do love the siphon money, yeah. That's problem. That's the biggest problem. It's your own econ actually. So you're just hammering away at Caprice and forcing me to spend all of the money in the world. And again, as soon as I don't bid 2. So every time when I bid 1 is when I lose. I should never bid 1 against you. Always 0 or 2.
Yep.
So Caprice bites the dust, which is very sad for me, but she did keep you out for a while.
Yeah, quite a long while.
It did cost me some money.
Nah, that's just a dent in your credit
So
pool. It's insane. Your Adonis is just taken away.
My econ has been completely uncontested in this game, and it's really caused you umpteen problems.
Yeah,
and that does go back to that beginning bit in the game where you had that option of trashing it all, and I think trashing it all would have definitely been the right call. Instead, you did a few keyholes, which didn't really accomplish very much.
Agreed. That's definitely my biggest mistake now looking back at that. Which I didn't actually spot during the game itself.
No, it's really hard to spot when is the right point to trash HB Econ, because sometimes you just can't afford to do it. Because sometimes you do it and you just open up a big old scoring window. But that particular time in the game, there was 2 things that were clearly assets, and there was no oh yeah, I accidentally advanced the wrong card there.
Yeah, so you advanced it twice, but you left it there. Yep, you didn't score it.
So I'm looking at you going, well, you have no money. So there's no way you're going to get into whatever that is. I think it's going to be an over-advanced Vitruvius.
It is.
Which served me well.
It basically completely shuts down the Keyhole threat, which is huge.
Yeah, and the Apocalypse threat, because it means I can just get Caprice back whenever she goes.
Yes, you can.
I can literally just, as soon as Caprice finally dies, I just pull her straight back and put it down again. That's, I think, the main reason I did it.
Yeah, this is actually a very disgusting tactic against ApocaMaxX.
Over-advancing,
so well.
the agenda suite, there's a lot of arguments over the agenda suite in that HB deck, in food codes. And having a couple of Vitruviuses on hand is phenomenal. They really can do so much work, especially against against anything that mills. But yeah, it because they let you get Caprices back just at the click of a finger. So now I've got 3 counters on it, which means...
Which basically means I lose the game. There's no way I can do anything about that.
Yeah, so now the problem still is for you. You're on 0 points. You've still got to steal 4 agendas, and it doesn't feel like you're getting any closer to it.
I
I
can't
mean, my,
keyhole you. I can't access from HQ. I
see,
can't
this
contest
is
your
this is
resources.
why I've because my version of this deck at the moment is slightly different. Because I think there's the cheering.
Ah,
I think I took out um some car. I think I took out some DDoSes actually, which may or may not be the right call. But what I did put in was the cutlery set. Um, and the cutlery set has insane utility against food codes. Insane. It's so strong. It's so good because you can just ruin their ice with it. And also I had all three of the cutleries. In fact, I played a game this morning where someone did it to me, and it was just horrendous.
yeah, it's very good
I
because you
couldn't get
can.
any ice up on any servers. It's horrific. And as soon as you raise anything big, um, because it's interesting because forked is normally the weakest, which is a sentry breaker, is normally the weakest part of the cutlery set. But against HB, forked is amazing because you can fork each E1 and then just click through it to kill it. Um, and they're also generally running assassins and HE2s. Like this deck runs a lot of sentries, and they're big, expensive sentries as well. So if you just hit them with forked, it can really set them back a lot of money and a lot of tempo. Um, so what have we got here? So double advancing and putting.
I have no idea
So
what that
yeah,
is. Oh, ABG. I see. Okay.
it's an AT. Yeah, so I put a Jackson down, I think, and
Yep,
went
that
for the
has to
trigger.
be.
The cutlery set, yeah, the cutlery set really hurts food coats more so than I expected. I think it's something people might want to veer more towards a bit if food coats is very heavy in their meta. Because it's great for dealing with Turings because Turings are normally an utter pain.
Do you
It means
still
you
have
just
it in your ApocaMaxX deck?
I do in one of the versions, yeah. I've got a couple of different versions, but
Hmm.
it means you can just David through Turing and then kill it,
That's appealing.
which is very because everyone hates Turing.
Yeah.
um, yeah, I've finally seen Apocalypse, and it's far too late.
Way too late. I mean, at this point, I'm just searching for that one copy of York,
Yeah, I
which
mean,
I let
yeah,
it.
you're still on no points, which is actually a bit sad, given that ultimately there's not been much ice out, and R&D hasn't been that well defended. Like you've really struggled in this game because I think of the amount of money I've had.
Yep.
Um,
And you
you
start.
know,
Oh, this is where you start using all your Vitruvius counters.
yes. Well, I kind of thought that the game was near to an end anyway, so let's accelerate it a bit.
Yeah. Thanks for putting me out of my misery there. So yeah, you basically just dump 5 cards in the same server.
And at that point, you're stuck. I mean,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
checkmate.
So I mean, I think what you needed to do was eat a keyhole more, in fact, because once you got rid of that caprice, R&D was relatively, you know, easy enough to get some keyholes in, at least try and get something. But yeah, this is the problem. If you don't get any points early, you get to this stage in the game, and you're just thinking, how in God's name am I going to pull 4 agendas out of HB before they manage to get the win? You know, once you're on 4 points, it can be one more agenda and the game is over. And it's an incredible struggle to get those extra points.
Yeah, that's true. Definitely should have prioritized HQ and the remotes more than R&D. R&D should usually be the last resort.
But I mean, how good would a sneak door have been in this game?
Ooh.
You know, it would have done a lot of work. HQ accesses an extra server for me to force to defend when I already haven't seen much ice.
To be fair, I don't want to encourage you to ice up archives. I still have immolation script and
It's true.
retrigger
It's
run
true.
working.
I mean, this is mainly theorizing. I'd
Yeah,
imagine that it's probably not going to be as good as just having the account siphon in, truth be told.
yeah. Yeah, I'm just wondering from this current build that you see right now, what should I cut if I want to put in the cutlery set? Because knife is actually really good against
Yeah, I mean,
DDoSes.
what I did was cut some DDoSes. Because actually, DDoS is really weird in that it can be really useless at times. Like right now, DDoS is totally useless to you. Once the ice is up, so DDoS is the kind of thing you want to see at certain points, but then the rest of the game is useless. And I don't think having 3 is worthwhile because of that. I mean, you could argue that having 3 means you're likely to see it early when you need it most, which is true. So yeah, I mean, I'm not quite sure where the differences between our versions are actually. I mean, this version's already got a knife in it, so it's only forked and spooned, which are the extra ones.
Yeah.
So it's only 2 more cards because you've got the same old things. So yeah, I mean, I definitely took one DDoS out for one of them, and I can't remember what the other card was. I think I may have taken a Queen's Gambit out for one.
That
For
could be.
similar reasons of there are times when you're just sitting there with Queen's Gambit in your hand going, this is completely useless. Um, so having three Queen's Gambits, if you're playing against Wayland, that's three wasted cards.
Or the daily cast as well, because once I'm tag floating, I can't
Yeah,
play
I
cards.
I think I've already gotten rid of the daily cast in mine. I don't think I've got it in mine.
No, that's a
So
good point. I think I should
so
make those
daily
changes.
costs. So I mean, you don't want to compromise your econ too much, but yeah, having forked and spooned makes a hell of a lot of difference. If you could just be, I've only got two pieces of ice on HQ and R&D. If you've just been able to do one or two forked and spoons, start killing them, then suddenly Keyhole is totally back on.
I'm like, hey, York is here.
Um,
10 turns too late.
Yogg arrives almost mockingly.
Very much so, yes. Yeah. So yeah. So another mistake was leaving two same old things out because you trash one after the siphon, and that was not good.
Yeah, I mean it's quite difficult because this deck doesn't run. It has decent econ, but it doesn't run insanely high on econ. And HB do make you make horrible choices as to whether you want
Yeah,
to spend all of your money trashing their assets.
and stealing NAPDs.
Yeah. And again, this is kind of why I like the cutlery set because it kind of makes your money a lot more efficient.
Yeah.
You don't have to keep running through that Ichi one. You just run through it once and kill it, and then or twice. Once and it gets raised. The second time it dies, and now it's cost the corp 5. It's gone. It's not such a bad exchange.
So now that you've played with this deck quite a bit, I mean your version of it, tell
Yeah.
everyone how do you find the experience?
I find it a lot of fun. It's actually one of the most fun runner decks I've played with for a very long time because it has viable threats on all the different servers. It's actually a very hard deck to play well because there are so many different lines of play most of the time that you really have to constantly think about what to recur and where you want to hit because you've normally got multiple different options. You normally have 4 or 5 different places that you can hit. Well, maybe not 4 or 5, but you can hit HQ or you can hit R&D or you can hit the remote or you can even hit archives, and knowing when to do what does take some time. But once you get a good grasp on the deck, it's a lot of fun. It's incredibly oppressive on the corp once it
Very
gets
much.
going,
Yes.
especially with Apocalypse. If you land an Apocalypse I think the most crushing time to land it is when the corp is going into a solid mid game and they're kind of like, right, everything is stabilized. I've got some assets out, got some ice up. I'm fairly solid. And then you hit them with an Apocalypse and just take it all away, and they're back to going, oh, everything is open. If they were trying to score an agenda, then now there's no agenda in the bin. Um, yeah, and it really puts a lot of pressure on.
Yeah.
It's a very fast deck. You do have to try and hit hard and fast.
Yeah, the early game really matters a lot,
The
and
early
that's
game
where I
does matter a
stumbled.
lot, and I think the early game matters a lot against food codes anyway. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, I mean that was an interesting game to watch because actually the deck kind of floundered, but through a combination of actually a mistake that you didn't identify at the time, which is probably trashing the econ right here.
Yep.
Um, yeah, what this game really does demonstrate nicely is why you cannot just let HB's asset economy tick away the whole game.
Exactly.
It will crush you.
Definitely.
You just will run out of steam, pretty much whoever you are.
Yep. Alright, we'll leave it there. And
Yeah,
I think
thanks a
this
lot.
has run for about half an hour. Thanks again, James. A lot of good insight from you. And that's all, everyone. Happy night running. Goodbye.